Welcome to the Total Soccer Show's weekend review. Man City were close to putting Arsenal's nose out of joint, but in the dying minutes, the hosts rescued a point. Jeremy Doku was among those who did a stellar job, and as for 6'5" Gigi Donnarumma, well, he got lobbed. But at least Donnarumma made it to the end, unlike Robert Sanchez when he tried to defend. Chelsea couldn't get past a Man United team who looked a bit stronger, so who knows? Maybe Ruben Amorim keeps his job a little longer. Elsewhere, there were derbies galore as Liverpool came out on top in the Merseyside war. And in Rome, we saw 3 points go to Gasp and his back three with a standout performance from Lorenzo Pellegrini. With 2 red cards and plenty of disdain. That game was just like Man United v Chelsea, except without the rain. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, Mr. Taylor Rockwell. Hello, Taylor.
Hello, Ryan. First off, from my perspective, that was lovely and solid defending by Robert Sanchez. How dare you? Second of all, Ryan, when I have to fill in for you for Weekend Review occasionally, I have to do my rhyming introduction in your honor. Do you decide on like one word you definitely want to use and then try to find the rhyme with it for like the second line? How do you go about writing your rhymes, your poetry,
ChatGPT.com.
The spirit of the rhyme overtakes me, Taylor. Okay. I don't know. I go into a trance.
It's
I feel like Graham nailed it, and you tried to squirrel your way out of it.
Yeah, I think I did nail it. No. What? It's like you know the Beatles documentary. The what is it like 11-hour Beatles documentary with Paul McCartney?
Which
Get
one?
Back just comes to him over like 20 minutes. It's like that. It's like you can see it, a brainwave.
I will take that comparison. Thank you very much, Graham Ruthven. How are you?
I'm very well, Ryan Bailey. How are you? Is the gate that you put up over the weekend and then gloated to us about in the Slack chat? Is it still standing? Has it exploded in a ball of flames?
So, listener, to keep you in on this Slack chat that we had, I didn't know we'd be bringing up in the opening minutes of Weekend Review. I put up a garden gate, and I felt the need to tell the group because Taylor is like incredible at masonry and woodwork and stuff. So I wanted to show that.
Incredible is a word.
I mean, that gate. If it was Taylor, that gate would have been on a bridge over a creek, and there'd be a highway of some kind as well. An arc, yeah. It'd be the gate to the arc. Yeah.
Who told you about my secret plans?
I will say better than I could have done, Ryan. So I applaud you.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. I was tempted. Sorry, Taylor.
Were you solo? Did you have assistants? Did the missus and children come out and approve of the work, or was it just sort of like, yeah, okay, next project?
Did I have assistants? Have they been out and even looked at it yet? You know the answer, Taylor.
Oh, that's always fun, isn't it?
Yeah. Still, I felt satisfied. I had to tell someone. Anyway, I was going to put up a Patreon video, but I didn't think people would be interested in watching a garden gate being constructed. But
you'd be right about that.
Yep, you would be right about that because we only the finest makes our bonus feed. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is where you'll get our bonus content, including bonus episodes, weekend review extras go in there. Everything we can't fit in this here episode will go on bonus feed. Also, bonus videos not of gates being built and access to our Discord server. All the cool kids hanging out there. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. All right, let's get to the weekend's action. Why don't we start at, I always want to say Highbury. Because I'm old. Emirates. Let's start at the Emirates. Arsenal won.
I do that too, for what it's worth. Maybe because I'm old as well. But I always had that moment of like, it's Emirates, right? It's not Highbury now and it was Emirates before. I guess it's that institutionalized at this point.
Just feels nicer to say Highbury, not an airline name. But anyway, Arsenal won. Man City won. Erling Haaland, of course, with the early goal here. And Gabriel Martinelli with a late one. Lovely assist from Eze over the top for the equaliser by the way. Mikel Arteta, Graham, is now the only boss to have gone 5 successive games unbeaten against Pep Guardiola in his managerial career. He did it. It felt like City kind of had this one in the bag, but hey, Arteta knew that streak was under threat and had that one move up his sleeve.
Yeah, I think the biggest talking point out of this game is surely Man City's approach, because this was unlike any Pep performance I've ever seen, or anyone's ever seen, because the 33% possession that City had in this game was the lowest possession share in a match of Guardiola's entire managerial career. We're talking 17 years as a manager, 3 different teams, 3 different countries, 3 different leagues. He's never had a possession share this low. And it very much seemed to be, I think that would be like understandable if, do you remember Arsenal won this game 5-1 last season, which by the way, I think City must have had some PTSD from that game. There must be some baggage from that game to rock up to the Emirates and set up in this way. But if this possession share had come in that game, it might have been easier to explain away as like, well, Arsenal were just dominant and City couldn't react. this very much seemed to be a deliberate ploy by Pep to set up City to defend deep against the ball. And they didn't do that for the whole game, obviously. There was a couple of opportunities where they were jumping really intelligently to win the ball high up the pitch. But as the game went on, particularly once Pep started to make his changes, when he takes off Phil Foden in this game, puts on Nathan Ake to go to a back five to see out this match. I've never seen anything like that from a Pep Guardiola team before, and it very nearly worked. It did work until all of a sudden it didn't work, and City sent way too many players forward on a break in stoppage time, which Pep was immediately, he could see it unfolding. They had this on Match of the Day. The camera zooms out and shows Pep, and as soon as they give away the ball, he is furious and he's concerned that they're out of shape. As he has time in the ball, puts that ball over the back for Martinelli to make that run and lob Donnarumma, who's off his line. Up until that moment, the ploy worked from Man City, but ultimately they'll be, I think, regretting how they approached this game after going ahead, because it just felt a little bit unnecessary to me.
Which part felt unnecessary, Graham? Because I think I largely agree with you, but I'm still kind of confused by the way this game played out in the end.
Yeah, like the final third of the match. So if we think of the game as three different thirds, the final third of this match felt very, very extreme, overly extreme for Manchester City. Because the way that they set up was, I thought, pretty smart. And in the first half, they were defending deep at moments, but there were still moments where they would jump and intelligently press. And obviously, the flip side of giving Erling Haaland so much space is that he's an absolute rocket when he gets going, and that suits him, as we saw for the goal, which was an excellent piece of play by Man City. And they could have scored another couple in that first half. They did have opportunities. Haaland himself, I think, has another opportunity that's saved by David Raya. So up until the sort of final 25 minutes of this game, I thought Manchester City had played it perfectly. They'd struck the right balance coming to the Emirates. But I just don't understand why Pep felt they needed to batten down the hatches so much for those final 20 minutes.
I think it's what's made this game so difficult to discuss, so difficult to write about. I think a lot of the articles I've seen have sort of criticized Arsenal for maybe being overly conservative, and that midfield three of Rice, Zubamendi, and Marino kind of seen as maybe overly cautious. But then you look at what Pep was doing, the possession share Graham already mentioned, and it feels like a game in which if they had kind of stayed the course, City kept on an attacker or two, and seen out this result, it gets hailed as a Pep masterclass, even though I think there are some who would say he kind of sat deep and bunkered and frustrated. That feels like a pretty standard tactic, but I think for it to be Pep doing it, to be so against what we expect of him, would be seen as sort of an evolution and a potential new wrinkle in what City can bring to bear. But instead, it's Arsenal who make the change, and Martinelli comes on and then gets the equalizer. And it opens that conversation of well, maybe this is Arsenal kind of punching back and finding a way through and never giving up, and City being overly cautious. And I find it, in the end, just a really confusing game. I'm inclined to give more credit to City because it feels like they were more comfortably executing their game plan until maybe that final sequence that Graham mentioned. So it just ends up being a strange one where I don't think I come away from this saying yep, this is City as a title challenger for sure, and I don't come away thinking, well, that's points drop for Arsenal, they don't have a chance either. I just think it's two very good teams kind of adjusting their style and then adjusting again, and ultimately it's a draw.
Yeah, so I think this is one of those situations where things can be two things. Arteta did get his starting lineup wrong in hindsight. I think that midfield three of Zubamendi, Rice and Marino, just too safe, frankly, for this game. Not a lot of creativity on the ball. None of those players want to get in between the lines, and the way that City set up, that just played into their hands. But where I do give Arteta credit, and this is where it differs from that game away to Liverpool a few weeks ago, where I was fairly critical of Arteta and Arsenal in that game, where they basically tried to do what City tried to do in this match, but not as effectively. Arteta makes the change at half-time. You mentioned Martinelli coming on, Taylor. The most consequential or most telling sub from an Arsenal point of view was Eze coming on at half-time. And that was a reaction to what we saw in that first half from Arsenal. So in that sense, Arsenal, I'm not as critical of them as I have been in the past. But the game's already set. The match has already been played on City's terms due to the fact that they've got the lead at that point. So it was always going to be difficult for them at that point. But I'm not really sure what to think. I guess my ultimate takeaway is that Liverpool are the real winners of this game, and it's already starting to feel like one of those seasons where they just do. And we'll come on to Liverpool later on, but they just do enough in their games, and everyone else behind them trips over each other and they stroll to another title. So, both Arsenal and City might be looking at this as a missed opportunity.
Liverpool aside, a friend of mine asked this to our group chat. No big deal, humble brag group chat.
The group chat, Graham.
Right.
Wow, cheating on us.
Is this the season where you have the lowest number of points qualify for Champions League? Because there's so much strength in the Premier League from top to bottom, you have so much talent, so much money spent, that basically it feels like it's going to be a just kind of slugfest, fight it out, knockdown, drag out. Eventually we get a 4th or 5th place team qualifying, but maybe with fewer points than normal. Does that speak to, do you feel like that's possible? And if so, does that speak to the competitiveness we're going to see from the Premier League this season?
I think that's possible, but also cumulatively, maybe the top 4 do get a crazy amount of points, because Liverpool could get 100 plus points without getting out of third gear, as we've seen already, which is terrifying.
It's a little terrifying. It's a little terrifying.
Little bit.
I thought City were terrifying for moments of this game. I thought the way they pressed in the opening 20 minutes or so, it didn't work oftentimes because I think Arsenal were more content to go direct. But that, I think, led to advantageous situations for City in which it's like Leandro Trossard trying to take on Kusanov. And Kusanov has 2 very good kind of hard challenges in the opening 4 minutes. I think he has another one around the 10th minute. It's the best I've seen him look, and he is substituted at halftime. But I think a lot of that is because Arsenal weren't able to kind of flood numbers forward and get into stronger positions with their possession, and instead had to be direct at times. And then I think City were content to kind of frustrate, as we've already talked about, and then kind of capitalize with Arsenal overcommitting. And that's exactly what happens with the goal, if we could spend some time on that one for a moment, because I think this is really a lovely goal that gets kind of overshadowed because I think of the chaos around the build-up, where basically Arsenal have way too many numbers committed and then way too many numbers trying to close down the kind of scrum in the middle. And by my count, they have 9 outfield players committed into Manchester City's half, trying to kind of swarm within maybe 20 yards of the ball, which leaves the one behind, which isn't enough. And it's Erling Haaland who basically controls the ball, finds the smart little out pass to Thierry Reinders, and then Reinders has the one defender ahead of him to drive at. And then it's Haaland, who's now maybe 15 yards behind the play, who recognizes, oh, this is on. And I honestly cannot tell if the other Arsenal players, are sprinting.
Yeah.
Or if they're jogging.
It's nuts.
But it's because Erling Haaland is so big, and it's some like very small number of strides he takes. Like maybe it's 20 strides in total to go from halfway in his own half to shooting in the Arsenal box. It's nuts how fast he looks by comparison. It looks like everyone else is out for kind of a casual stroll. Going back and watching, I think multiple Arsenal players are screaming at other players to try to make a play or try to put in a professional foul because they see what's happening. And the player who maybe sees everything happening the most is Reinders, who has runners to his left. I forget who is on his left side. Maybe it was Foden, maybe it was Doku. But either way, has options there, and I think waits and waits and waits for the exact right moment to play on Erling Haaland. Credit to Haaland, who slowing his run down and not straying offside. And then it's just a really technical finish, and he does take kind of a heavy touch, but again, has such long strides and closing speed that he's able to make up for it, finish expertly, and it ends up being a really lovely technical counter-attacking goal, and then City are able to just be like, well, now you got to beat us, Arsenal. Good luck.
And it's also the little layoff and touch from Haaland deep to start the move. And we are seeing more of that from Erling Haaland. I didn't really get a chance to mention it, when was it? Last week against Manchester United. But that was the most that I've seen Haaland do in like deep positions for Man City. And while it wasn't quite at that level for that goal, it starts with him in that moment. And as soon as he gets motoring, you know it's a goal. The speed is nuts. Like, do you know what it's like? It's, you know, in a horror film, they'll build up. I'm thinking of a horror film like, what's that film called? A Quiet Place. With John
I was thinking
Krasinski.
about Scared Stupid. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, not that one. A Quiet Place. And it's like they build up to the moment that the monster lets rip for the first time, and you catch like little glimpses of the monster like scooting past the camera or whatever, but then the first time you see that monster like open its legs, it's a frightful scene. That was that.
That's going out of context.
I've not seen this movie. Now I wanna. That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Stretch
I
its
don't.
legs.
I really
That's what I
don't.
meant.
I will say, Erling Haaland. I'm glad you highlighted the goal, Taylor, because I don't think there's anyone better, possibly ever, in soccer who, when they're making a run into the box and they've got a diagonal low shot to place, you just, as Graham says, like you're 99.9% sure that is hitting the net, possibly off the post and in. He's just
Ryan,
so good at that.
I'm going to put you in an awkward position here. The only player I think of as being more consistent or I more trust in that moment is Harry Kane. So would you rather have Harry Kane in that spot or Erling Haaland?
Both good options.
Your Englishness will not allow you to answer that question. Is that what I'm hearing?
Both born in England. Both can't tell. Don't know. Anyway, yes, the point stands. One other point I make about this game: Pep Guardiola's interview after the game, and it speaks to what Graham you were saying earlier. He was talking about Man City having a short week, and they were in Champions League on Thursday, and his excuse was odd. He said like. Obviously, we've had to fly back from Naples. And if you're a team in London...
That really was odd because they were not playing in Naples. But anyway, on you go.
But he made a weird thing about if you're playing in London, you don't have an extra 4 to 5 hours to travel home or something, which none of it made sense at all. I must have got the wrong end of the stick what he was talking about. It was bizarre.
I would have thought it was the other way around. Like London being the city it is, surely takes longer to get home from a game afterwards. But anyway, yeah, no idea what he's talking about. I guess it is potentially a factor they did have a game on a Thursday, which is unusual. I think that they only do that once in the entire season, UEFA. So they did have less preparation time. But City played 60 minutes of that game against Napoli against 10 men. So they had a easier night of it than otherwise might have been the case. So I don't know.
Graham, if a pundit, let's just say Jamie Carragher, for sake of argument, were confused about what Pep were saying and the argument he was trying to make, how might Jamie Carragher express that confusion at what Pep was saying?
What are you talking about?
Thank you very much.
There we go.
That was outstanding, as always.
Wonderful stuff. That takes us beautifully into the break. When we come back, we'll talk about Jamie Carragher's alma mater and the Merseyside derby and much more. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the weekend review. We go now to the Merseyside derby. Liverpool 2, Everton 1. Just the 5 wins from 5 for Liverpool. Demonstration, Graham, of Liverpool's talent that Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak did not start this game, just leaving the 300 million of talent on the bench. No big deal. It's fine. But we had the lovely one-touch opener from Graham Birch, Etitike, following up. And the consolation.
Nailed it.
Well. Yeah, I'm going to let you talk, Graham. Go on. Tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you. This looked like being a pretty comfortable game for Liverpool in the first half because up until the second goal to make it 2-0, they were dominant in this match. And Arne Slot made some changes from the Athletic game, as you mentioned there, Ryan, with some of the players that were on the bench. That appeared to have kept things fresh, I thought, in the first half. And Liverpool, they were doing some really nice work to get into the space between the Everton midfield and defensive lines. And Liverpool's midfield, they are a nightmare to play against if you give them any sort of space in that area because they all rotate. McAllister, Gravenberch and Szoboszlai, they all swap positions and roles. And then in this game you had Ekitike dropping deep and then Gakpo would push one up into the centre forward position, and Everton were pushed and pulled all over the place in that sort of opening third of the game. And we saw some of that for the second Liverpool goal, where the Everton defensive line is fragmented, and it's not even in a phase of play where they're under a huge amount of pressure, but they're in the washing machine at that point. So nobody is sure who should be pressuring the ball. Ekitike is then allowed to tuck in behind Tarkowski and get him behind because Mikalenko is keeping him on. There's no consistent line between them at that point. So I feared a bit for Everton when that goal went in. But they did come back into the game, Everton, and I do think some of that was on Liverpool and how they allowed their intensity to drop, which was always a risk after playing in the Champions League during the week. But Everton started to find Grealish on the left side, that front four that they have of Grealish, Dewsbury Hall, Ndiaye and Beto, I think, have real cohesion together. Like from the moment they've been placed on the pitch together this season, there seems to be chemistry between the four of them. And they started to combine a bit more, especially Grealish and Dewsbury Hall, who like to get nice and close together on that left side and have good rotations. When one will come central and one will go wide, depending on the situation. They bounce passes off each other. And they were having some joy in isolating Conor Bradley. And the Gana Gueye goal, which is a lovely goal, by the way, the execution of it is great. That involves all three players in that move, and it's a quality goal and a quality finish. So Everton certainly caused Liverpool some issues as the game went on. It wasn't quite the same level of trouble that Bournemouth and Newcastle have caused in matches this season, because Everton don't quite have that lightning quick transition speed. But I thought both teams' qualities at different phases of the match came through ultimately.
There we go. Hopefully that's the most we say about Bournemouth Newcastle in this episode. I don't know if you saw that game. Scrappy! Taylor, Everton, still fun? Still loving them?
Yeah, I thought this might end up being a closer contest, especially given that Liverpool, prior to this game, were only capable of scoring goals after the 80th minute. And they went ahead and smashed that one. They get the 2 in the first 30. And I felt like that didn't quite kill this game off as a competitive contest, because Graham has already outlined how Everton tried some different things, had some chances of their own, obviously get the 1 goal. But it did sort of feel like we've seen this game before. It's Liverpool in complete control, and maybe they add a few more. So maybe it's to Everton's credit that they don't let that happen. I did think it was interesting to see David Moyes so kind of calm and tranquil on the sidelines. When asked about that afterwards, I believe he said, "I was just thinking about how happy I am not to be managing West Ham anymore." So maybe it's that level of experience that he's now bringing back to Everton. But I think they remain very fun and a very capable team with a lot of talent in there. I do still worry about what happens if some of their players get injured and they don't have much talent behind them. But for now, I think this is just a very good Liverpool team, top of the table Liverpool, obviously, against an Everton team that maybe aren't quite at that level. But I would say aren't like that far behind it. And I think we'll still spring some surprises against some other top teams in the league.
Yeah, Everton don't have Isak and Florian Wirtz on the bench like Liverpool do.
I do imagine Curtis Jones subbing in I think at the same time as Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak, and being like, this doesn't feel the same, but all right, here we go, going in.
Can I just say something very quickly on Ryan Gravenberch? I think he's been the best player in the Premier League this season. I know he doesn't play that first game against Bournemouth, but I remember talking about how they missed him in that match. Every game he's played since then, he's been absolutely outstanding. Obviously, he scores the first goal in this game, and I think it's a much trickier finish than it immediately looks, because I don't know, like, having played, just pick up soccer myself, I'm thinking of the mechanics of that finish with the ball like coming over your shoulder and bouncing away from you to get then enough on the shot to beat Pickford. I think is really difficult, and he makes it look easy. But his overall performance was brilliant in this game. He can just do everything, right? He can drive the ball forward, he gets into space between the lines, he can carry the ball, he can pass, he can drop deep, he screens the back four as well, he's really good at that, he gets forward into the box. So I think he's probably the best all-round central midfielder in the Premier League at the moment, which I didn't see coming after his first season at Liverpool, which was pretty underwhelming. But of all the players to react to Arne Slot, he is definitely top of the list. He's brilliant.
While we're on the topic of surprising Liverpool players, Kirkus has obviously been pretty strong, starting for them at the left fullback spot. But am I the only one who's really surprised that the best summer signing so far in terms of immediate impact has been Ekitike? I thought for sure it was going to be Florian Wirtz and then Alexander Isak. Maybe the prolonged nature of that transfer is why it hasn't been Isak, but Ekitike seems very comfortable being asked to do a lot of different things and looks good doing most of them. And then most importantly, a point that I had missed, maybe has been discussed on this show, but a friend of mine mentioned, have we discussed that Ekitike is a palindrome? Because I do think that gives him some strength, some stability and strength.
Oh, I like that.
I hadn't clocked that.
Right? Isn't that kind of nuts?
That might be, but that might be a Samson quality. Like
there it is.
Like yeah.
If you added one more letter in there, he's no longer as good.
Yeah.
What would have been good if he played in the band I was in college, which was called If I Had a Hi-Fi? Also a palindrome.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Why were they not very good?
And If I Had a Hi-Fi?
What's your excuse?
We played all our songs backwards. It was confusing.
Yeah, that would do it. Ekitike has been brilliant. Not overly surprised that he has hit the ground running just because he's a quality player. There is an interesting dynamic between him and Isak, and it becomes a nice problem to have for Slot, but I don't really know how you swap the two of them when Ekitike just continues to keep scoring in games. It's going to be the
FIFA career mode problem, Graham, where you're just like, somebody get injured, get injured. The one and only, be mad at me when I sit them on the bench.
The one and only time that a manager has wanted an injury, potentially. Not to be contrarian, I think Milos Kerkez has struggled in a few games this season, but clearly has potential and ability, so pleasing to see him come into this team again, because I am a fan of his, even if it was at the expense of Andy Robertson. Yeah. I am surprised that Florian Wirtz has not looked better in his first 3 games for Liverpool, and that's not me writing him off as a flop or anything. But you would have expected just the way that they're they're set up, Liverpool, they're set up for him to get in between the lines. And I know he doesn't start in this game, but in the games that he has played, and it's felt like the system is there to harness him. And we just haven't seen enough of him impacting games in that final third. And I don't know whether that's because that midfield that Liverpool have, you're expected to rotate. Just what I was saying about Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai. They're expected to do a bit of everything. So I don't know if Wirtz maybe has like the defensive instincts to really police Slot in that way. But I think he'll come good. He's too good, surely, not to come good. He's sort of like a generational player, Florian Wirtz.
Yeah, indeed. Squawker reminding us that David Moyes has never won a Premier League game at Anfield in 21 tries. It's the most any manager has managed at one stadium without winning in Premier League history. Oh boy. Also, it'll be remiss not to mention it was a sad weekend on Merseyside. There was a sad passing of Liverpool's former women's coach Matt Beard at the age of just 47. Beard guided Liverpool to WSL titles in 2013 and 2014. Our hearts go out to his friends and family, of course. We should probably spend a minute at Old Trafford. The madness therein. Manchester United 2,
it's only
Chelsea
3 more
1.
than Robert Sanchez spent there.
Hey-o! Nailed it. Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro with the goals. Casemiro far too concerned that he was earning his 350 grand a week so he got sent off to sort of redress that. Chalobah with the consolation here. As Taylor mentioned there, Chelsea's keeper Robert Sanchez shown a red card in the 5th minute. This is Man United's key strategy for winning games, now getting the keeper sent off for the opposing side, it seems. This was the first match in Premier League history to see 2 or more goals, red cards and subs in the first half. I think, Graham, the key incident I want to highlight from this game is that there was an actual Simpsons reference that unfolded within this game. Man getting hit in groin with football actually happened live on the field between Bernardo Silva and Trossard. It was a slightly unedifying moment, maybe more so for Bernardo Silva. But
there's nothing more on brand than Ryan referencing all of the many ridiculous things that happened in this game, and that being the focal point of his analysis. Bravo, sir. Bravo.
And it rained.
I mean, the rain. I was going to bring us to Old Trafford. The rain was unlike anything I've ever seen. There was a point in this game where I thought, oh, Manchester United are heading for a win here, and it's going to get postponed, because there was a Blackburn Rovers game. Blackburn not being that far away, that got postponed, I think, with 8 minutes to go when they were winning. So I feared that from.
Well, PSG's game was postponed. The Classique was postponed this week due to storms, right?
The Classique was or Le Classique was postponed as well. So I'm thankful that they got through this game, and also thankful, as you say, Ryan. I said last week I don't know how this Man United team in this setup with this system creates chances against better teams. What the secret is to play against a team down to 10 men for 50 minutes, because that made a big difference with the overloads where they had a free man. There was a very good analysis on The Athletic today about how they made good use of that free man. I think Brian Mbeumo has been the one bright spot for Manchester United so far this season, certainly in an attacking sense. And it was an undeniable factor that Manchester United having joy with those overloads was down to the fact that they had an extra man. But the red comes from a design situation before the red card, where Manchester United dropped Sesko deep to then pull the opposition defenders and create the space for Mbeumo to run into. That was a little bit more vertical than what we've seen until now, but that's the sort of move that has been working for Manchester United, and I've highlighted this a couple of times. It's the only way that they've really created chances this season. So I guess it was fitting that was how they got the advantage in the match. No idea what Robert Sanchez is doing. It's the clearest red card you'll ever see. The VAR could set that one out, because it just completely cleans him out.
Isn't he kind of in trouble no matter what? Because if he doesn't come for that, there's the immediate criticism of you've got to come, you've got to try to make a play. But then with the ball skipping and him being late to it, if he pulls out, it's just the player's in on goal. I'm not sure if there's any way he doesn't come away looking bad from that.
Not getting a red card would have helped,
but
right?
Not getting a red card would have been probably beneficial. Yeah, when was in on goal, but as a goalkeeper, then make a save, I guess. Not get yourself cleaned out. Get yourself.
Well, this is my question. If he knows he's not going to get there, and I'm not saying he did know that, but if in a half second he recognizes I am going to lose this foot race, do you give him credit if he then just jumps out of the way and is like, oh well, in you go? I kind of don't know what to do because I feel like that's a very bad look if he just comes in and starts to backpedal. Ask Jorgensen about that from later on in this game. I'm not sure once he is committed there's anything he can do other than exactly what
I think that's the mistake.
He's
I think the mistake is fully committing to where you're having to make an intervention. Because there is still I mean, maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly. There's still a Chelsea player in play, right? Like when Mbeumo's kind of ahead of them, but there's still a chance that a Chelsea player could recover. I think.
I think he's about to do I think he's that touch that Mbeumo does take because it's his first touch that he gets and then gets cleared out. That touch is going to take him across the defender, so it's either going to be the defender it's that age old has to pull up, or is going to clip him, and then that defender's getting the red card. So I'm not sure there's much to be done there, but I agree with you all that the red card is probably not the ideal scenario, especially when the backup goalkeeper comes in and looks pretty tentative, as Jorgensen did for, at the very least, the second goal, where it's, I believe, 1.5 miles straight up in the air, and he continues to stand on his line and not come for it, and it ends up with Casemiro heading it in for a 2-0 lead for Manchester United. That was fun for me, a Man United supporter. Also fun was I'm going to say intentional physicality of some Manchester United players. After the Derby defeat to Manchester City, I saw a lot of frustration from ex-players, specifically shocking that ex-players from Manchester United were public in their criticism. But talking about how do you finish that game with no cards? How do you finish it without somebody getting kicked? Just showing that frustration, venting that frustration. And it felt like in this game we saw a response from a few players, very specifically Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire. Luke Shaw has a couple moments where he comes in for big tackles and then gets up and is kind of very, not turning to the crowd at all, but just very, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And he has the one with, I believe, is it Enzo? Yeah, it's Enzo Fernandez, where they're kind of battling in the corner, and then Luke Shaw just gives him a shove after the play is done, and then just come on, on with it. And I just enjoyed that Luke Shaw did not back down from those challenges. And then there's a moment in the 57th minute. This was just a borderline hockey moment of Dorgu does really well to receive the ball, I think from Harry Maguire, and he plays a first-time ball behind him sort of central and then spins around and makes a run in behind. Dorgu receives the ball, I think, from Bruno at this point. And Harry Maguire has followed the play and recognizes, not only can I now make an overlap, but someone's getting crushed. And it's Reece James who is trailing the play, and Harry Maguire in his overlap absolutely just clears out Reece James. But he's making an overlapping run, and whoops, I didn't know he was there. And it just felt like such a deliberate, not only can I make a run and get away with it, but I'm going to smash another player in the process. It felt like Manchester United had a bit more physicality and intensity to their play in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like they embraced the chaos of the match. I almost have nothing to say about world. Sort of the it is their world. I almost have nothing to say about sort of the flow of the game or tactical things, just because it was complete chaos. But Manchester United did from the roof. Actually, the roof was gone.
That's called a leak.
The roof, yeah. I just think there's almost no point in sort of analysing that stuff. Manchester United embraced the chaos. Chelsea didn't help themselves, first with the red card, and then with the changes that Maresca made in response to the red card. Seemed to lose his head somewhat and just took off all his forwards and attackers, so that when the game state did change and it went to 10 against 10, Chelsea just couldn't impose themselves in any meaningful way in the final third because they had no players capable of doing that, other than Alejandro Garnacho, who doesn't come off the bench in this match. Interestingly enough, I was convinced he was going to score in this match and really rub it in at the Stretford end, but that didn't happen. So a bit of a chaotic night, and certainly a chaotic approach to this game from Chelsea.
There was a weird moment. Do you see when Mbeumo was going to be taken off, and he comes his number comes up, he goes all the way to the touchline, and Amorim goes, no. Stay on. And
I did see that.
And then they do a different substitution a couple of minutes later. It was bizarre. So did the wrong number get called, or did he just change his mind?
Waste that time.
Yeah, maybe a bit of that, maybe. Well, Taylor, there is good news. United have now won 3 of their past 4 Premier League home games. Everything's fixed. Everything's going to be good from all.
Is that guy with the hair closer to get the haircut?
He's closer, but we're not there yet. It's so, for people who aren't aware, I think about him way too often. There's the dude on, I'm assuming TikTok, but social media in general, who announced over a year ago that he wasn't going to cut his hair until Manchester United won 5 games in a row. He has not had a haircut in over a year, but we're edging closer. We're getting ever closer. I think he might be setting himself up for disappointment because United have they won just the one, or are they 2 in a row? They've just won the one. Okay.
No, it's just 2 in a row. 2 in a row now, which is astonishing.
They lost to City, right? In between, I think it was Burnley, then a loss to City, then Chelsea.
Oh, it's 1 in a row.
Yeah,
this poor guy.
I know.
Has anyone died of not getting a haircut?
He's getting
before.
And maybe it was even at home, but then I forget what their schedule is, and I'm pretty sure there's Liverpool in there, so it's Liverpool away, so hopefully it's home games. I don't know. It'd be a bummer if United have Brentford away, then Sunderland at home. So he gets up to 3, and then it's Liverpool. Even more of a bummer would be to beat Liverpool, have it be 4 in a row, and then lose to Brighton at home.
In the good old 90s, my brother, when Wimbledon went on an undefeated streak, didn't have his haircut. It lasted nearly 4 months. And he didn't enjoy that by the end of it. I think he actually maybe went and got it cut, and then we lost, and it was his fault. That's probably
his fault.
At
what point does Amram start using that kid in his team talk, like Mr. Burns? There's a little cripple boy in the hospital, I know, because I crippled him myself.
Oh, boy. Second Simpsons reference for this game alone.
That's a really good one, though.
Big fan. Well done. Very good. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got more of the continent to talk about. By the way, if you want to hear about the rest of the Premier League games, Weekend Review Extras for you. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. We'll be back in a second. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the Weekend Review. Hey, over in Rome, they had a derby, a good, gritty, edgy derby, a 6:30 a.m. Eastern derby. Oh, wonderful stuff. Lazio 0, Roma 1.
Was it wonderful stuff? I'm going to object
it was
right
stuff.
there. Okay, it was indeed a game that was on. I'll give you that much.
One big chance. It was a real thriller. That's one big chance between the two teams over 90 minutes.
I was going to ask this because I actually did watch this, but it was also 6:30 on a Sunday. No, I wondered whether I just wasn't awake yet.
It wouldn't.
Absorb.
I also think going in expecting it to be sort of what the Rome derby has become for me, I think did not help, because I was ready for it to be a sort of dull, uneventful affair. And there were the 2 red cards for Lazio. They happen regrettably too late into the game to really turn this thing around. But it's a well taken goal, and then it felt like, yep, that's pretty much it. That's all Rome needed. Gasperini, I think, was content with the 1-0, and so too were Roma. Credit to Gasp, credit to Roma, less credit to Lazio for the performance and the 2 reds.
Yeah, they've lost 3 of their opening games now, have Roma, and as you mentioned, the 2 reds. Guendouzi getting sent off after full time. He was being a bit of a pest in this game, shall we say?
Matteo Guendouzi.
Can you believe it? I know.
Not like him.
I know, not like him at all. Very out of character. But Lorenzo Pellegrini, as I said, mentioned...
Is he growing his hair until Lazio win 5 games in a row?
Quite possibly. It's going to be a mess. Lorenzo Pellegrini, that was his 4th derby goal that he scored in for the 1-0 win, of course. His first start this season as well. Roma tried to sell him this summer. He was former captain who looked surplus to requirements, who's very much made himself not surplus to requirements. First time Roma has won this derby as the away team since 2016 as well. I did enjoy the quote from Gasperini afterwards. I'm very happy with the derby. Of course you are. Even if it was so loud towards the end, they couldn't hear me. And there was a lot of comment, I think, on the commentary about how loud the stadium was. But how many times, I think I've mentioned this before on the feed, but how many coaches can be heard in a very loud stadium? Like, is there a point where Gasperini has to say, guys, be quiet, I'm trying to communicate with the players, you're ruining it for everyone?
Well, that's why managers end up doing the hand-wavy stuff, where nobody has any clue what they're going on about.
All right.
So.
Since Joe isn't here, should I do his ageist role for him and just say, and I thought, like, Gasperini is I think the second oldest manager to win a Rome derby behind Ranieri. Yep. And I feel like the elderly stereotype is maybe being hard of hearing. So if anything, I feel like the increased volume would be helpful.
Maybe so. Well,
I found myself, while being bored by this game in stretches, thinking more about Gasperini. And I feel like that's one where maybe we've talked about that in the past, him moving from Atalanta to Roma. But I definitely, in this game, found myself wondering, like, why make that move? Like, Roma, I think, are historically the more significant, maybe, brand. But from a competitive Champions League consistency, near the top of the table consistency, structure, it felt like Atalanta was the place to be. So reading more about it, I was interested to learn that basically Gasperini turns down a new deal in February and says essentially it's been a good 9 years, but I wonder if maybe there's something else out there. It seems like he wanted to kind of challenge himself a bit more, had bigger ambitions, and Roma matched those with their spend, with the money they were willing to give him.
With a €5 million a season contract that makes
help.
him the second highest paid coach in Serie A. Yeah.
But it's an interesting one because they themselves have some financial issues and some financial penalties to work out. Spent €63 million this summer on essentially 2 players, kind of 3, but really just the 2. But a lot of loans, a lot of free transfers. It feels like they are like a lot of talk about ambition and future ambition and goals of winning the Scudetto. We'll see how that plays out. But it was interesting to kind of, in reading, go from, why would you want to leave Atalanta to, okay, I get it. Good luck at Roma.
Yeah, I think there was there an element of he'd done all he had to do at Atalanta, and also the money would help. Yeah. But also the most important part is if fewer than 10 managers don't change in Serie A in any given season, they void the league. So they had to do it.
He's got to play his part.
Didn't have a choice.
Took one for the team.
Talk about taking one for the teams. How about scoring 2 for the team with an assist? That's what Christian Pulisic did this weekend. A 3-0 win at Udinese. Returning to the starting lineup was Pulisic after being benched in the last 2 Milan games. Congrats to Chrissy Pauls getting that one done. Milan with some impressive control in that game. The third goal, listener, go check that out. It's a great move from box to box. It looks like things are going well, at least for this game, for Milan. The other Milan team did well as well. 2-1 win over Sassuolo, arresting a 2-game league losing streak for Inter as well. Over in Spain, meanwhile, Real Madrid with a 2-0 win over Espanyol. If you haven't seen this game, listener, go check out the highlights. Just look out the goals. Eder Militao's opener was a banger. Kylian Mbappe's second goal, also a banger. Why go into the box when you don't have to? Just shoot from downtown. That was the Real Madrid ethos in this game. But their perfect start doth indeed continue. Graham, things a bit tricky for Atleti, though. They were held to a dramatic 1-1 draw with Mallorca on Sunday.
Yeah, another poor result for Atletico Madrid, which means they've won just one of their opening six fixtures, so far this season. They're just so uneven at the moment because there were stretches of this game where they looked as good as they've looked since that first half of opening weekend game against Espanyol, which they end up losing, which tells you a lot about the way that Atleti's season has gone so far. There are other periods of games like that Espanyol game and this match at the weekend against Mallorca, they just completely drop out of matches. And they did that here after taking the lead, interestingly enough, with 10 men. They just got deeper and deeper, but it doesn't feel like a Simeone team, where in the past, Atleti would see out games in that way. They're nowhere near compact enough to see out games by doing that. And by the end, they're hanging on for a point in this game. They are not naturally creative enough or inventive enough on the ball to evolve into like a more front foot proactive team, which has been the thing for Atleti for years and years and years. We've been in this cycle before with Simeone where he promises he's going to change, they bring in a bunch of players, but nobody really good enough to move the needle. It just feels like it's happening again for Atleti this season, and it certainly hasn't helped them that Thiago Almada and Alex Baena have been missing. And in this game, Atleti did have some decent opportunities. Marcos Llorente was effective again, like he was at Anfield. He was really effective getting forwards, but they lack defensive resolve. They lack the ability to sustain that for a full 90 minutes, for like a full half. They can't do that. And just defensively at the back, they don't have that classic Simeone thing. As I say, Lenormand is good at playing out from the back, but Atleti rarely use him in that way. Clement Longley doesn't always do the defensive basics well. David Hanko has had a shaky start to the season as an Atleti player moving in the summer. Julian Alvarez comes off in the game and was seen saying, or he's mouthing to a teammate on the bench, always me, after getting subbed off. I said it a few weeks ago, he looks very, very disgruntled. I'd keep an eye on that one because there's surely some big clubs monitoring him. And all of this is set against the backdrop of a potential takeover. So Apollo Management, which is apparently one of the biggest private equity firms in the world, they are reportedly in advanced talks to buy Atleti for €2.5 billion. Apparently they're going to build a training ground. Their ambition is they want to establish Atleti as like a true Tier 1 team. then leads to questions about Diego Simeone. Is he vulnerable if this club gets taken over? They decide. I mean, we've seen it before, right? New owners come in, they don't really like the style of play, the team's underperforming, they want to get rid of the manager. That's the talking point at the moment. It increasingly feels like he is very, very vulnerable, and is sort of, even though the type of football that he likes is very different to sort of Wenger ball at Arsenal, there is a parallel between the way that Wenger built up that club to a point and then sort of overstayed his welcome, and by the end is sort of like ushered out without the big fanfare. That kind of feels like the way it's going for Diego Simeone, because this has been a dreadful start to the season for them.
I think it's very important at this point to note Johnny Cardoso out with an ankle injury until October. Not our fault. Not our fault. We didn't ruin Atleti. It is a weird one, Graham, that he could be like... He is not Tony Pulis, Diego Simeone, but it would be a very Tony Pulis thing to have a club be like, we new owners, we kind of have greater ambitions. Sorry, you don't.
That worked
fit.
out for Stoke after they got rid of Tony Pulis as well. Yeah.
Exactly.
Going great.
Mark Hughes at City, is that a better one? That's probably a better one, right?
I like the way Atleti have greater ambitions to become, as Graham said, a true Tier 1 team. Maybe one that challenges for the title, maybe one that regularly makes Champions League finals. That would be nice if they got to that level. That would be good. Very good indeed.
There is that,
Yeah. Barcelona 3, Getafe 0. Ferran Torres with a brace in this one, and Dani Olmo with the other goal there. Barca are still unbeaten. The assist for Dani Olmo's goal coming from Marcus. Graham says, I'm not technical enough for this team. Rashford.
You saw that, did you?
You
saw that on Thursday.
Yeah.
That was poorly timed. Marcus Rashford, yes, as you say, Ryan, coming off the bench in this game, produces a very nice assist. He didn't start because reportedly he was late to training before the game, I presume on the Friday or the Saturday after the Newcastle game. So I don't know if that is a little sign that some of the Manchester United-ness of him has yet to be ironed out. A positive performance, positive game for Barcelona on the whole. As you say, Ryan, another couple goals for Ferran Torres, who might legitimately be just keeping Lewandowski out of the lineup right now. He's been really good these past few games. He isn't as much of a natural finisher as Lewandowski, but he's more mobile, and I think he maybe links up play a little bit better as well. So you could argue he's a more quintessential sort of Barcelona centre forward. And watching him, some of his movement, I get like David Villa vibes about Ferran Torres. He's improved a lot over the last 12 months. He could have had a hat-trick in this game because he batters one off the crossbar as well after scoring his second goal. Less positive for Barca was the Fermin Lopez injury. He actually doesn't come off with the injury, but at the end, Hansi Flick saying that he's picked up a bad one. I think the fear is that he could be out for a little bit, which would be a real shame because he's a great player and was in good form. But as I say, Barca have depth now. Dani Olmo, as you say, Ryan, scores the third goal in this game. Pedri was excellent. Rafinha's back in the lineup. Lewandowski came on. They can absorb an injury or two, Barcelona now, which I think is a difference to last season.
Wow. Quick counterpoint, Graham. Are we sure it was Fermin Lopez who got hurt? Are you sure it wasn't Ferran Torres who got hurt and Fermin Lopez who scored the goals? No one knows for sure because they might be
because of the same person.
Yes.
Yeah. You had me worried there for a second. I was like, have I got the wrong person?
See?
No one knows
McDermott,
because
Mulrooney.
If there's no stadium, does a player even kick a ball? It's kind of a...
It's true. Has anyone considered that?
No.
I can add one. What's the sound of one hand clapping, which is meant to be philosophical, but Bart Simpson... It makes a noise.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
To be clear, listener, that was one hand clapping and not anything else you just heard on the microphone there. Taylor, let's, before we head out, a quick look at the Bundesliga. We probably could save some Bundesliga for weekend review extra, but maybe a couple of games to discuss here. Bayern's 4-1 win at Hoffenheim, for example. Harry Kane with a hat-trick with some penalties in it. Which is rinse and repeat for Harry Kane, it seems, at this point. He's now scored 70 goals and 9 hat-tricks in 67 Bundesliga games for Bayern Munich.
I thought you were going to say this season. I was like, yeah, that sounds right.
Probably.
Just the 8 goals for him in the 4 games so far in the Bundesliga. Congratulations on winning the Golden Boot, Harry Kane. Congratulations on winning the title, Bayern Munich. So 4 wins from 4. 18 goals for, 3 against. They're looking just fine. Dortmund stayed second with a 1-0 win over Wolfsburg. Leipzig remained third with a 3-1 win over 4th place Köln. Frankfurt had their second straight off weekend with a 4-3 loss to Union Berlin. Oliver Burke got himself a hat-trick, including a beauty of a counter-attacking goal that they went from one end of the pitch to the other in, I want to say, 12 seconds from the it's Frankfurt taking a long throw. Union win the header in their box, and from that header, 12 seconds later, back of the net, rapid fire from Union. Frankfurt looking very sloppy, overworked in the middle, lots of individual mistakes. not their best game. A much better game for Hamburg, who get their first win of the season at home to a still winless Heidenheim, who are fully rooted to the bottom of the table. But it was a very rowdy and raucous atmosphere for Hamburg at home getting that result. And in the battle of questionably relevant teams, Leverkusen drew 1-1 at home with Borussia Mönchengladbach. Joe, if you are listening to this, Gladbach to you. Malik Tillman was man of the match, scored Leverkusen's goal. He looked very efficient and decisive in the middle. That's how I'm going to frame that. He took a lot of 1- and 2-touch passes, made a lot of 1- and 2-touch passes, but they were all just sort of without hesitation. Sometimes they're backwards. Occasionally they were forwards, more often they were backwards or lateral. But I just like that he seems to have kind of taken on the mantle of making the decision, playing the ball, finding the outlet, keeping things going. He looked really strong. So too did Joe Scally. We have to talk about Joe Scally for a moment. I was really excited by this. He played right wing back in the new formation of Eugen Polanski, who's a 3-4-2-1. Scally at right wing back, involved in the attack in ways that I've never seen before. He has 3 touches in the opposition box.
Ooh.
Lest we forget, he's had 93 total in his entire Bundesliga career. Adding 3 to the mix. Big time. 3 shots in this game, 2 of them on target. He did really well.
Wait, Scally did?
Yeah.
And 3 shots?
Yeah, and dude, he gets involved in the attack. He has a driving run where he gets past a defender and then goes for a disguised shot where he's looking for the cross and then tries to put it near post. It's a great save by Flecken. But I saw some things from Scally I haven't seen before, is all I'm going to say. And then we saw more from Gio Reyna. He comes on with, I think, 10 minutes to go in that 3-4-2-1. Well, it's a 3-4-2-1. It's a shape change under the interim manager, Polanski. And I don't think that's about Reyna necessarily as much as it is he already had kind of 2 attacking, creative midfielders. Reyna was being added to that in a 4-2-3-1. When you change the shape a little bit, maybe Reyna falls off the pecking order. But
we got one game.
He's still playing minutes. He still looks good. He still looks excited to be there. I need someone to explain to me. This is such a minor thing and not important, but it's me, and this is my brand. Gladbach scored the equalizer off of a corner, I believe, that's taken short, then played in, then they score. Everybody runs to celebrate, and Reyna is running with them, and then suddenly is no longer there in this huge scrum that features the entire team. And for a minute, I thought, he and Joe Scally stopped to hug. But you get one reverse angle where Scally is definitely looking for Reyna, and Reyna gives him a quick, distracted high five and then sprints back towards the goal. And every replay I've watched, there are no Gladbach players down. Nobody gets injured. There's nobody behind the play that was involved that deserves credit. All I can figure is that he's trying to get the ball or stop Leverkusen from getting the ball to midfield, and I don't know why you would need to do that when it's 1-1. But it's a very mysterious moment that is now bothering me because I could not figure out what it was. So maybe somebody was there, maybe somebody is listening and could go back and piece together some pieces to figure it all out. I'm sure there's a conspiracy in there somewhere.
Not the first time we struggled to work out Gio Reyna's actions. If Joe Scally becomes a marauding, world-class, attack-minded fullback in the same team where Gio Reyna is a peripheral figure and not involved much, does that break Joe, finally?
Yes.
Is that the thing?
I think that's it.
He's not coming back from that.
I did text Joe to say, dude, I'm watching this game. I texted him, Joe Scally took a shot, sound the klaxon, light the beacons, all in caps, and he said, I thought this day would never come. I said, I'm not sure if you've watched the Gladbach game, but he's been quietly really good and fun at right wing back. And he said, I haven't had the chance, but that does legitimately surprise me. So we've started the Joe surprise train. We'll see if we end up breaking his brain.
All right. We'll find out more of Joe's opinion, specifically on Major League Soccer, on the Tuesday episode with Jeff and Taylor as well. So do tune in for that one. But that is it for Weekend Review. If you want to hear the rest of the games from the weekend, Weekend Review Extra, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. But for now, Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much indeed, sir.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, my friend.
Thank you, Graham Ruthven.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
And thank you again, listener, for joining us. We'll be back on the feed very shortly. But for now, bye.